We want to welcome you to this information session. We are going to record because many people may not have been available at this time, but we want to leave this session available for them. So hopefully everyone's okay with recording. If you're not okay with your image being recorded, please feel free to shut down your video or even remove your name if you like to from the Zoom. It's completely up to you. But we'll keep recording, okay? Okay, so the way this, my name is Nicole Patton-Terry. I'm the director of the Florida Center for Reading Research and the director of this doctoral training grant, along with my partner in crime, Dr. Sarah Hart.
Hi, everyone. I'm an associate professor of developmental psychology and a faculty member at the Florida Center for Reading Research.
And Katie Goodman.
Hi, guys. I am the program coordinator over this new doctoral training program, FIREFLIES, and one called R2D2.
Awesome. So what we're going to do this evening is introduce you to the program and go over a quick PowerPoint. It'll probably take about 30 minutes, which will leave about 30 minutes for questions and answers from you all. While we're presenting, just go ahead and leave your mic muted, but when we get to question and answer time, you'll be able to unmute yourself and ask questions as well as use the chat function, okay? So I'm going to share my screen. And then I'm going to share our PowerPoint. All right, so are you all able to see the PowerPoint presentation? I'm gonna assume that's a yes. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us to learn more about the FIREFLIES doctoral training program. I am a huge fan of acronyms, and so FIREFLIES stands for Florida Interdisciplinary Research Fellows in Education Sciences. And our doctoral training program is focused on reading research. We are very happy to have you here with us. As we said, this preview will be recorded. Please feel free to leave your lovely faces there in your videos, but also feel free to turn them off if you feel more comfortable. And then to just control your mute function when you're not speaking. As we just introduced ourselves, my name is Nicole Patton-Terry. I am a professor in the College of Education and Reading Education. And Dr. Hart is faculty over in developmental psychology, and Katie Goodman is our project coordinator. You can see our contact information here, and you should feel free to email any of us with any questions about the program. You can also find us through our social media. Dr. Hart and I are on Twitter pretty actively, and Katie's on LinkedIn. So what is FIREFLIES? FIREFLIES is a training program funded by the Institute of Education Sciences with the intent on developing education researchers. There are several doctoral training grants funded by the Institute of Education Sciences. Ours in particular is focused on the interdisciplinary study of reading. And it really reflects who we are because we study reading from multiple disciplinary perspectives. The training group have a total of 18 doctoral fellows who will participate. We are recruiting 10 new students to begin the program in fall 2021. Our ultimate goal is really to have you join a quite robust intellectual community where we will develop deep disciplinary as well as interdisciplinary knowledge related to reading broadly and the field of reading research broadly. And we will hopefully build in you competencies that allow you to contribute to the evidence base of reading research, to communicate those findings to diverse stakeholders, and to provide leadership and service to our field and to our profession, but also to the larger community. And we hope that by doing that, a big part of what you will learn to do is gain some knowledge and expertise and understanding about the research that's necessary to advance our field. In the way we will achieve that is by making sure that we offer you an opportunity to apprentice with us. And so we'll have a robust apprenticeship experience for you as well in research, as well as in developing these leadership and service and entrepreneurial skills. We are very intentional about the kinds of mentorship that we provide for you through this process. We are very intentional about making sure you engage locally and nationally with education stakeholders, and we're very intentional about ensuring that the research that we show you how to do, the research that you eventually learn how to do and will take in your own careers, is responsive and impactful to the field as well as to society at large. FIREFLIES is housed at the Florida Center for Reading Research. So FCRR is an interdisciplinary research center at Florida State University, and it includes several faculty from multiple disciplines who study some aspect of reading. We study reading across lifespan. So we have faculty who study reading and aspects associated with reading for young children all the way up through adulthood. We have folks who study reading, looking at typical development as well as atypical development. We have people who study reading when we're looking at environmental factors associated with reading and family factors that are associated with reading, instructional factors that are associated with reading. So we try to cover all our bases for the field of reading research broadly. And we really try to apply the lens of research as well as innovation and engagement to ensure that the science of reading that we are contributing to really advances learning and achievement for individuals from birth through adulthood. So FCRR engages in research, but it also engages in research that can inform practice and can inform policy. And then that policy and practice also informs our research. So it's a very integrated process. Oh, there we go. FCRR has several core faculty and affiliated faculty with them. These are all of our FCRR faculty currently at the moment. You will see faculty in psychology, social work, reading education, special education, educational psychology, communication sciences and disorders. So several different fields and disciplines, all contributing to a better understanding of reading. And so as a FIREFLIES fellow, one of these individuals will be your primary advisor, and many of them will be your mentors as you travel through doctoral study at Florida State University. Our current FIREFLIES fellows, we have 4 this year who began this year. And what's important is to see that they, again, represent this interdisciplinary approach that we take to understanding reading. So Rebecca is a doctoral student in communication sciences and disorders. Chris is a doctoral student in clinical psychology. Kristen is a doctoral student in reading education, and Cynthia is a doctoral student in developmental psychology. So it's important for us to bring in a diverse group of junior scholars who will help contribute to our understanding of reading from all of these different lenses. The training program includes components related to coursework and pro-seminars, research, and leadership, entrepreneurship, and service activities. The courses and pro-seminars really are a mix of the coursework that will be required for your PhD program, as well as a few courses that are specific to the FIREFLIES program. In addition, as you accumulate this coursework and certain activities within these coursework, you will graduate with an education sciences certificate. FIREFLIES fellows also participate in weekly pro-seminars and lectures on campus, as well as a biannual colloquium series that we'll put on focused on critical issues in education science. One of the really great strengths of our program is that there are several doctoral training programs happening at Florida State at the same time. One in special education, there's one in reading education, and there's one in communication sciences and disorders. And lucky for us, there are FCRR faculty involved in all of those training programs. And what that means is it allows all of you, all of the doctoral students who are being trained across these programs to come together once a week and learn and understand different aspects of doctoral study as well as their own disciplines together. And so it's really nice that we're able to provide that for you as a student and really bring you into a quite diverse interdisciplinary community. In addition, like all doctoral students, you'll participate in research activities with your primary advisor, as well as with another faculty person outside of your primary advisor. Your research apprenticeships are typically about 20 hours per week, and that will happen over the course of your study. In addition, you will attend conferences and present at conferences with your advisors, and you'll publish with your advisors. So you'll be engaged in the entire research process, all the way from idea generation all the way through to dissemination through presentations and publications. You'll be a part of that entire process. And then finally, it's important that this research gets used, right? It contributes to the public and contributes to the public good, because we really do believe that the work we do matters to improving outcomes for those in society. And so part of being able to do that is to develop some competencies in leadership and entrepreneurship and service. And so you'll participate in professional learning opportunities that are available on campus at Florida State University to develop those skills. But you'll also have the opportunity to join national organizations within your discipline that also provide those types of learning activities. And then you'll also participate in an apprenticeship focused on practice and policy. FCRR is fortunate to have several partners in lots of different education related agencies, whether they be school districts or state departments or local nonprofit organizations, all focused on outcomes associated with education and reading. And you'll be able to apprentice with those organizations as a researcher and help them harness and use research to solve the problems that they've identified for themselves. So let's talk about the funding package. The Fireflies Fellowship is a 4-year fellowship. It comes with an annual stipend of $34,000 a year. In addition, you'll receive up to $12,000 to defray the cost of tuition and student health insurance. All Fireflies Fellows will be required to be in residence and on campus at Florida State University. And so you will qualify for in-state tuition, and that will help with defraying those costs of tuition and health insurance. In addition, every year you would receive a fund of $2,000 that can be used to support your development. So that can be used for research activities that you might want to engage in, for travel to conferences and memberships in organizations, registration fees for conferences, as well as if there are certain trainings you'd like to participate in, books that you want to buy, other types of software you might want access to. You can use this fund to help develop you as a scholar. And then of course, you'll also have an office, and you'll have technology available in your office that is there to help you grow and develop as a scholar as well. Let's talk about the application process. So in order to be a Fireflies Fellow and receive this funding package, you've got to get accepted to a doctoral program here at Florida State University, and specifically a doctoral program where there are FCRR faculty who will be your primary advisor. So in order to apply, you need to apply to the PhD program of your interest. It is important that you look at the programs to determine what the application deadline is. These deadlines differ by program, with some deadlines being as early as December 1st. So it is important that you apply early and definitely no later than January 1, 2021, because we will begin to review applications and then interview candidates for these fellowship opportunities. And that will happen in early 2021. So it's important that you pay attention to whatever the deadline is for the program you're applying to and apply as early as possible. These funding opportunities are quite competitive. They go very quickly, and to ensure that you have the greatest opportunity to be offered one of those fellowships, you've got to get your application in early so that we have the full time to review it. Program and expressed an interest in applying for Fireflies. When you do that, the faculty in that program will let us know, and we will get in touch with you and ask for you to complete an additional Fireflies application, which is quite simple and really just a letter of intent, a letter of statement saying why it is that you're interested in this program, why you think it's a good match for you, who you'd like to work with, and why you would want to study reading in this way. That will come after. And then if you're invited to interview and if you're offered a fellowship, you will be asked to sign a letter of agreement stating that you intend to enroll at Florida State University and receive this fellowship and participate in the program. So the minimum requirements for the program include the following. The first is that you must be accepted into a doctoral program where FCRR faculty person is appointed and assigned as your primary advisor. So again, you want to take a look at FCRR, take a look at who our faculty are, and then determine if any of those faculty's interests match your own. And if they do, determine that if the doctoral program you're interested in also matches your own interest and that you would be a good candidate for admissions into that program. FCRR faculty are currently housed across these doctoral programs. So curriculum and instruction is in the College of Education, in the School of Teacher Education. Under the curriculum and instruction PhD program, there are 2 specializations, one in reading education and one in special education, where FCRR faculty are located. In the School of Communication Sciences and Disorders, there are FCRR faculty there as well, affiliated faculty. In the College of Education, there is also the Educational Psychology program, and within that program, there's a concentration in learning and cognition where FCRR faculty reside. In psychology, there are FCRR faculty in the developmental and clinical psychology programs. And in the College of Social Work, there are FCRR faculty members there as well. So it'll be very important for you to explore these programs, consider which ones are the ones you're interested in applying to, and also consider whether or not FCRR faculty members are the ones you would like to study with, that they are taking students beginning this fall, and that they'd be interested in working with you should you be admitted to the program. In addition to having an FCRR faculty person as your advisor, the other requirements at a minimum include that you are seeking a career as a leading academic researcher. This is a fellowship program that is designed to develop you as a researcher and a scholar, and in particular in the field of reading research. So it's important that that's where you see your career going, and that's why you're getting this PhD, and that's why you're pursuing studies specifically with us at FCRR. In addition, this fellowship requires a focus on P-12 student reading achievement in the United States through an interdisciplinary lens. So you may well be interested in reading achievement in students in other countries, for example, or you may well be interested in reading in adult populations, and that's all wonderful, but it would not be a good fit for this program. This program is specifically focused on students in preschool through 12th grade, and it's specifically focused on students in US schools. We're also very much so focused on applying an interdisciplinary lens to the study of reading, and so you will engage in coursework and with faculty and with students across multiple disciplines, and we are looking for folks who are interested in that. If you are only interested in studying within your own discipline, this program will not be a good fit for you. And then finally, as I've also said earlier, you are required to study full-time on campus for the duration of the training program. You must be here in Tallahassee, you must be here on campus, and you must be here full-time. And while you're studying in this program, you will not be allowed to take on any additional employment. This is on purpose and by design to ensure that you're able to put full focus on the development of your skills as a scholar, because this program moves quite rapidly. It's pretty rigorous, and you are likely to graduate with your degree within 4 years. That takes a lot of effort and a lot of time, and we want you to be focused on doing all that you can to be successful at that. Some other considerations, which aren't minimum or requirements, but they're things we think about when we are looking for candidates for doctoral study in the FIREFLIES training program. First is we were looking for folks who can contribute to the diversity of FCRR. As I've said on multiple occasions, we do study reading in a very different way because we are quite interdisciplinary in our approach. And so we want folks who have diverse experiences and diverse perspectives and diverse attitudes on how it is that we understand reading in the field of reading research. And we'll be looking for what it is that you can contribute to the diversity of all of us that helps us move the field forward together. We'll also be looking to see if you have any foundational knowledge of the field of reading research. It, again, not required. Perhaps you're a person who hasn't focused on reading before, but because this is such a rapid-paced, really full program, it will be a much more, it'll be an easier experience for you, probably a much more enjoyable experience for you if you've had some understanding of the field of reading research and some engagement in that field in one way or another, whether it be as a clinician or a teacher, maybe it's a master's degree, maybe it was a thesis you did as an undergraduate, but having some understanding of the field of reading research will help you. We're also looking for those same reasons. We're looking for folks who've had previous research experiences in preparation, previous experiences with P-12 education, and previous experiences with high need or vulnerable student populations. Again, not required, but because this is a rapid and rigorous training program, it will help you if you've had some time and experiences participating in research, either in an undergraduate or graduate program. It'll help you if you've had some lens or frame from understanding P-12 education. Again, not required, but it will help you. If you've been engaged as a teacher or as a clinician or as a volunteer, as a mentor, having some understanding of P-12 education will help. And then our faculty, you will notice as you come to learn more about us, is that we are pretty well focused on typical and atypical reading development. And that means we do a lot with student populations who struggle to acquire reading skills. So when we say vulnerable populations or high need populations, we're talking about student populations that might struggle to acquire reading skills, and that can include disabilities, students who are growing up in poverty, students who have language differences, students who have language disorders, for example. So we're students who maybe have experiences in their home and family lives or communities that make it difficult for them to achieve in school. Those tend to be the populations we focus on. And so you might find a good match amongst our faculty if you're interested in those populations as well. No matter what your experiences are up to the point of you attending the program, we are certainly looking for folks who have the capacity to build strong quantitative methodological skills, strong oral, written, and multimedia communication skills, and strong leadership and entrepreneurial skills. FCRR has us, most of our faculty has significant quantitative methodological experience, and will probably be interested in directing students to gain those skills. And so it'll be important that you are interested in and able to take on quantitative methods and really extensive and rigorous quantitative methods. In addition to strong oral and written skills, which are important for all doctoral students, we do take a focus on multimedia communication of research. We're very much so interested in making sure that we communicate our science effectively to the public. And so part of your training will be on things like how do you communicate findings in journal articles, but also how do you do it on Twitter? We're going to talk about both. And so interest in taking advantage of diverse media to communicate about research will be helpful. And then in addition, we want you to be leaders in our field. And so we will make sure that we put you in a position to gain those leadership and entrepreneurial skills. And we'll want to see individuals who are interested in that. We want to see individuals who are interested in being in these positions that we currently exist in, and taking on those positions as they develop in their careers. Doing so means that we will be looking at things like your personal and professional maturity. PhD study and doctoral study is difficult. It's a lift for most people to take on, and so it's going to require a certain level of maturity to take on successfully. So we'll be looking for that. We'll be looking for whether or not you are a lifelong learner. Part of this job, a PhD is a scientific degree. And it means that what you are always doing is questioning. You're always asking questions and looking for the answers, which leads you to more questions, which will lead you to more answers, which will lead you to more questions. So this idea of always wanting to learn and having a thirst for learning is really important in doctoral study, and we'll be looking for that in your previous experiences that got you to this point, and your desire to continue to do that moving forward. We'll be looking for folks who can work both independently and collaboratively, and that may seem odd, but a PhD program is a very much so self-directed program, and is very much so about you taking initiative for this new career path that you are on and doing things that are necessary to move yourselves forward. And that requires your ability to work independently. It's not a 9-to-5 job. You're not clocking in and clocking out. So you've got to be able to take the initiative to drive this train forward for yourself. But in addition, most good science doesn't happen in isolation. All of us are doing research or teaching or contributing service and engaging with our field in teams. And so it's important that you're able to do that as well. And we'll be looking for folks who can be good members of their cohort and be good colleagues with their cohort members as you all go through this process together, because it'll carry you through to the next phase of your careers. So those are some of the things we'll be looking for in candidates for these fellowship opportunities. We're now going to move to the question and answer session. Again, I'm going to turn off this video. Please do use the chat function to ask questions. You can also raise your hand, and then we'll get to you and get to your question. If you have questions about the training program, the sort of nuts and bolts of the training program, you should always feel free to reach out to Katie Goodman and she'll email you back with the best information possible. But if you're interested about doctoral study or you're interested in what research opportunities might be available for a specific faculty, you should email that faculty person. Let them know that you're heard about the Fireflies training grant, that you're interested in participating and wanting to know more about studying with them or wanting to know more about their doctoral program. And they'll be able to give you that information. And then as always, you should take a look at our website at fcrr.org. You can find us on every kind of social media almost available out there to learn more about FCRR, as well as to learn more about the Fireflies training program and all the faculty there. So thanks so much for looking at our presentation. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can see your lovely faces and allow you to ask questions.
Any questions? There was a few questions just privately that I answered.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions?
As you formulate your questions, we thought it would be helpful. So we received some questions about the training program up front before we had the session with you, and we thought it'd be helpful to give you some information about a couple of things. So one question that continues to come up is, well, how do you study reading from an interdisciplinary lens? What is that all about? Because, you know, I'm just getting a PhD in my program. So when we say study reading from an interdisciplinary lens, what we know and understand is that there are many reasons why children develop reading and how they develop reading and why reading might go awry. And it requires us to search in other disciplines to find out why that might happen, but also what some solutions might be. So that's what I mean when I say we study it from an interdisciplinary lens. And what that means is, for example, we have faculty in social work. And faculty in social work might not be inherently interested in reading, but they are perhaps inherently interested in trauma and how trauma might make a difference to academic outcomes in schools. What is the relationship between violence in the home and academic performance at school? What types of interventions can be developed in schools that can be delivered by teachers or other clinicians that might not only improve academic outcomes, but also leverage what we understand about social emotional learning to improve those outcomes for students. In this case, the academic outcome you care about is reading, right? But that's one way we do that. If you are in communication sciences and disorders, so these are folks who maybe had training in speech language pathology, maybe you're particularly interested in how students with specific language impairments develop language, reading and writing skills. Maybe you're interested in the relationship between oral and written language because you think that language is everything and language contributes to everything we do around written language. Well, reading is the written side of that, right? And so maybe you're interested in that. Dr. Hart, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about how in psychology you think about studying reading from an interdisciplinary lens.
Yeah, so in psychology, we tend to be really interested in basic processes. So in developmental psychology, we look at kind of the component skills of reading and how they develop across time, how that shifts, how children are learning to read in their earlier school years versus later school years. So that developmental process. We might also be interested in potentially the role of kind of other comorbid psychiatric disorders with reading disability or reading problems. We might be interested in how different parts of the individual, like personality or interest in reading or kind of, you know, these more social aspects or environmental aspects, of how those are all related to how children are learning to read, and then also how their school performance related to like reading achievement. In developmental psychology as well, we're really interested in methods. And so some of the work we do is advancing statistics and research methods and how we understand and define reading disability, how we classify a child with reading disability, what that classification means, and how that classification might change across ages of the child. So those are the types of research questions that we ask in psychology.
Mm-hmm. So this brings us to what is often the second question or thing that we're noticing. So the tricky part of this and the sort of gift and the curse of this is that there are many of us, right? FCRR has lots of faculty associated with it who study reading from so many different lenses. You might find yourself interested in studying with any one of us, but don't forget that what you're applying for is a doctoral program to allow you to get this funding to participate in the FIREFLIES training program. So you do also want to make sure that you are looking at the doctoral programs that you're interested in and whether or not you are a good fit for those doctoral programs and whether or not there is an FCR faculty person who is a member of that program who is taking doctoral students to advise in the fall. We've had some folks who are interested, for example, I'll use myself as an example, who may be interested in working with me. I am faculty in the reading education program in the College of Education. Developing doctoral students who will eventually take on faculty positions, very likely in colleges of education, to train teachers. They will be in positions to train teachers as well as to do research around issues related to reading education and in fact maybe teacher education. That means that anyone who wants to study with me will need to be admitted into a doctoral program that is going to require that you've had some experience teaching in K-12 schools. Because if you're going to get a faculty position in a college of education to train teachers, you're going to have some street credibility. They're going to want to know, these teacher candidates are going to want to know that you've been where they are, right? So if you're interested, you might have interests that align with mine, but if you can't get accepted into my doctoral program because you don't meet the minimum requirements for my doctoral program, then you're looking at the wrong doctoral program. So you want to make sure that you're looking at this doctoral program of study as well as this fellowship opportunity. Doctoral study is about changing careers. This is about leaving what it is you think you're currently doing because you grow up, you want to do what we do. You want to do something completely different. We tend to train people who want to be in faculty positions. So you're not wanting to go back to do whatever it is that you're currently doing or thinking about doing. You want to be one of us. And being one of us means you've got to gain access to this discipline and this deeper understanding of this discipline that you'll be joining. And so as you think about these opportunities, while this is a lovely fellowship opportunity and we think it's awesome and it's great, we do want to make sure you're also understanding that what you're thinking about is whether or not you want to get a PhD in whatever discipline it is you want to get a PhD in, and whether or not that program that you want to get a PhD in is the one here at Florida State a good fit for you. Okay. So I can give you that example for myself in reading education. You might have a student, for example, who's interested in studying dyslexia, let's say. Well, we have faculty who study dyslexia and communication sciences and disorders and reading education and special education and in psychology. Which doctoral program is the right one for you and why, right? That's what you want to be thinking about. Sarah, I don't know if you want to have anything to add to that related to psychology.
Yeah, so unlike the College of Education and teacher education, in psychology, it would be incredibly abnormal to get a candidate in clinical psychology or in developmental psychology who's been a teacher before, right? What we're looking for in developmental psychology is someone who's had experience in taking research methods or statistics classes and enjoying them. And someone who's had considerable previous research experience. So we're looking for people who've maybe done a research master's degree, or they've done an honors thesis in undergrad, or worked in a psychology research lab otherwise. So those are the types of backgrounds that we're looking for in psychology typically, especially developmental psychology. Clinical psychology usually is also looking for people who've had multiple years of experience, whether they're a lab coordinator or definitely having done a master's degree. And someone who's who's had previous therapy or counseling experience as well, even on a volunteer basis, but showing that they understand that clinical psychology is an APA accredited psychology program where you are training in the clinic at the same time as training as a researcher. So each of the psychology programs at least are looking for different backgrounds. But we all study reading, but our PhD programs are quite different from each other.
Right. I will give you one more example. So in the field of communication sciences and disorders, for example, As Sarah said, in psychology, you might have lots of students who come directly from undergraduate who don't have a master's degree and who enroll in a doctoral program in psychology. Many of them get their master's degree as they move along in the program. However, in communication sciences and disorders, most students enter the doctoral program with having already done a master's program because they have already been practicing speech language pathologists, they have their C's, and so by the time they get to doctoral study, they've spent some time out in the field practicing speech language pathologists. In education, often students will have a master's degree or an ed specialist or something of that nature before they enter in to a PhD program. And many of them will have had some experience teaching students from preschool to 12th grade before they enter into that program. But that's what be true in a curriculum and instruction PhD program. And an educational psychology PhD program, that might be quite different, where many times there might be folks there who haven't had teaching experience in classrooms because that's not what they do. They studied learning and cognition and motivation and these other factors associated with how students do in education. That doesn't necessarily require that you've had teaching experience. So we say all of this to say, you do want to make sure that you're not just looking at this fellowship opportunity. You need to make sure you're also looking at your doctoral program and ensuring that it is a good fit for you and reaching out to the faculty in those programs to make sure that their interests align with yours.
We have some good questions.
Okay.
Can you explain how COVID-19 has impacted the program, and will research still take place in the schools?
Sure, that's a great question. There are three primary ways I think it's impacted the program. The first is travel restrictions. So as a part of your training program, you would have been expected to be going to research conferences with us and attending those conferences with us, and that has halted. A lot of conferences have moved to a virtual format, and so we've all participated in things that have been offered in a virtual format, but that has made a difference. The second way it's made a difference is many of our courses, which would typically be face-to-face, a lot of them have been offered in online or hybrid formats. Like just as in most of the news, what you're hearing about is undergraduate courses, but it's also the same for graduate courses too. So we're all offering some mix of face-to-face and online coursework. And then the third way is, yes, you're correct. It is very difficult to do research in schools right now. That doesn't mean it's impossible. So we do have faculty, for example, who are doing research in virtual schools. We have faculty who are doing research in public schools right now, but we're just not physically setting foot in schools, but maybe we're getting data from our partners in schools and doing things with that data. Maybe we're observing classrooms making use of this technology and media to observe classrooms. I will say, I should say related to that, I guess that the fourth way it has made a difference is it forces you to ask different questions. So there are many of us who are doing research projects or adding things or changing our current research projects to add interests related to COVID-19 because it has changed what is happening for our school partners. And so in the quest to be responsive to their needs, we're also changing the way that we do some things. But I will say, thankfully, for most of us, we tend to have really good partnerships with whatever school partners we have. And so while it might have changed, it hasn't completely halted.
And another good one. Can you tell the audience a little bit about the commitments required upon completion of the program? For example, is it 1 year of service for every semester of funding? If so, what environments would qualify? Private institutions, public institutions, research, etc.
Great question. So this program does not have a payback requirement. There are some training programs that require you to deliver a certain amount of service for the number of years you receive funding. This program doesn't work that way. The expectation is that you will take on a career as an academic researcher. Now you can take on that career role as a faculty person, but you could also, for example, work in research institutes. You can go get a postdoc and work in a postdoc situation. You can work for the Department of Education and in their research division. You can work for a state education agency in their research division. So the expectation is that you continue a research career, and really that's what they're looking for. I will also say, I think they're really looking for you to continue a research career that is focused on issues associated with education in the US. I think that is their primary focus, and so it is something that you should consider as well.
Any other questions?
Yes, I do have a question. I prefer to speak than to just put it in the chat. Yeah, I'm more than I'm more than a speaker than a writer right now. Yeah, look at my hand. Been writing, working every single day from 9 to 7 at night. Yeah, some of my questions that I have is the first question. So the $12,000 and the $34,000, that covers pretty much the expenses for the 4 years. So every year the 12,000 is how much extra do I need to pay if I'm admitted for the 12,000? How much extra I need to pay from my pocket? That is the first question.
So sure. So the $12,000 fund that you receive that should help defray the cost of tuition as well as health insurance. For most doctoral students who study full-time, the number of credit hours that you take each year should cover, that amount should cover most of it as long as you're on in-state tuition. We also go get tuition waivers for you, both in-state and out-of-state tuition waivers for you from your departments when you're accepted. And that also helps to defray that cost, so that it should work out that you don't have any out-of-pocket costs associated with tuition. Health insurance really depends on your choice. So as like in most college or graduate schools or most universities, students are required to have health insurance, which they can gain from any multiple ways that they do it. There are several options. There are individual options and family options and all these different options. And you will be able to use these funds to to help defray those costs. But how much it defrays really depends on which plan you choose for yourself.
Oh,
Sarah,
okay.
do you have any other additional information? Did I catch everything on that one?
Yeah, oh, sorry, that's my dog.
Dogs are excused.
Yeah, oh, I thought she was stopping, but she's still doing it.
Yeah.
Another thing that we can't help here at FSU is that they have student fees at the graduate level that work out when you are in state. There's something like $600 or $700 a semester, and out of state students, it's around $1,000 a semester. So it's unfortunate that FSU just happens to have fairly high student fees that are on top of it.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. Sorry, my next question is, so how many people join your group every year? So this is open every single year for PhDs?
So no, it is not open every single year for PhDs. This is a training grant that is offered by the Institute of Education Sciences, and we were awarded as one of the sites to host the training grant. There are several of these training grants across the country. They are funded on a cycle. So in this cycle, we were awarded one of them. So we will, and as a result, we have 4 new students starting now. We'll have 10 new students starting next fall. And then we'll have 4 new students, slots available for 4 new students starting in the following fall.
Oh, okay. So my last question is, I've been doing research before. I have 2 master's degrees, and I'm more or less familiar with the methodology and field studies, and I published already some books in criminology. That was one of my masters. And I'm not familiar with your publications. I don't know, where do you publish? That I would like to read some of your publications. National, international, university.
Can you tell us what discipline you're interested in?
Reading, reading research.
No. I mean, which PhD program are you interested in?
And reading education and education?
Okay. Sure. I think you should look at the following journals. You should look at Scientific Studies of Reading, Reading Research Quarterly, and Reading and Writing an Interdisciplinary Journal, Early Childhood Research Quarterly, and the Annals of Dyslexia. Those are some of the prominent journals that different faculty who are engaged with that program publish in.
Does somebody mind to put it in the chat, please? That was pretty fast. Thank you.
Sure, we can put it in the chat. I will also suggest for any of you who are interested, when you find the faculty person that you're interested in working with, or even the program that you're interested in working with, simply Google Scholar of the Faculty, right? Go on, you can Google us and you will find all of our profiles, because all of our universities are very good at that now, where you can find our bios and our, and when you go to our web pages, you will see where you can look at our CVs and you will see the things that we have published. But a really easy way to do it is just go to Google Scholar and you put in our names and you will find the different things that we published over time, and can take a look at any of those and find those that might not be behind a paywall, right? Those that you can actually take a look at. But you can, that is a good way to find out what it is that we do and how it might map onto what it is you're interested in doing. And I see Katie is putting in the chat box different the Reading Ed programs website.
We had one more good question. Is there a 3-year option, or the program is fixed on a 4-year timeline?
Very good question. There actually is a 3 to 4 year option. It is our expectation that the students who come into the program in the fall will utilize it for 4 years. However, it is possible that there are students who can complete the program in 3 years, especially if you are already 1 year in. So we do have a couple of students who are already 1 year in, and so they're going to be able to complete the entire program with just 3 years of funding. If that's you, it's something that we can consider. We just need to make sure we understand all of the reasons why that is, and making sure that you can meet all of the requirements in enough time.
I'll just speak that if you are if you ask that question, you're considering psychology, the FIREFLIES program is possible to complete in 3 years, but the psychology PhD program is not possible to complete in 3 years. That is a 4 to 5 year program with 95% of students taking it in 5 years.
That is a very good point. I don't think any of our doctoral programs can be completed in under 4 years. Most the average time for doctoral study is 4 to 5 years. Our programs are in reading education, for example, are designed to be completed in 4 to 5 years. I would say that is probably true for all of the other participating programs. And I will also say that that is an ambitious timeline. That is one of the reasons why these are such generous fellowship opportunities. The expectation is that you will live and breathe your doctoral study for the next 4 years, because we're going to try to get you through as rapidly as possible. But the funding is for up to 4 years. So the obvious question will be, well, what if I don't finish in 4 years? What about the money? So luckily, and hopefully we will continue to have this trajectory, but FCRR faculty are pretty active and pretty grant intensive. And so we typically have funding opportunities that allow students to continue to gain funding. It is not guaranteed, of course, and we can't promise it because we don't know if we have that grant or the next grant or the next grant, but we certainly have the expectation that we will continue to be grant active. And so we have not had a situation where we've been unable to fund a student. It also depends on your program. So some programs, for example, like psychology, funds their students. All admitted doctoral students in psychology receive funding from psychology. That is not everyone. So you do want to ask.
Yeah, you would ask if you're thinking, your advisor that you're considering applying to, kind of those could be details that you ask about if you're interviewing with them, because you're right, in psychology, we fund all students until you graduate. What will it mean though is that the FIREFLIES funding is way higher than normal PhD funding. And so in psychology, typical PhD funding is around $25,000 a year. And so then you would move on to those typical psychology lines in your fifth year.
Yes, and I'll say, for example, in education in my program, we do not guarantee funding for students who are admitted. Students who are admitted may receive funding through their advisors' grants. or through a graduate research or teaching assistantship that is available in the department, but that is also competitive funding. So amongst all the students who were admitted, you are competing with them for those slots. And at last check, the amount was, I believe, $20,000 annually, or just shy of $20,000 annually. So these are quite well-funded, generous funding opportunities to study full-time. So they're definitely worth taking full advantage of if you're ready for this type of study.
Well, this is a good question. I did not realize the psychology funding aspect. If you are admitted, do you have to choose which funding you receive, or would you automatically get both? I am applying to clinical if that helps.
Yeah, so this is how it works is this funding counts you as like 100% employed. So you only can receive one funding source. So if you get into clinical psychology and you get offered the FIREFLIES, then you would likely accept the FIREFLIES fellowship. If you don't accept the FIREFLIES fellowship, then you would be brought into psychology under one of the more normal funding lines, which usually includes some teaching. And that would be at that rate, the psychology rate. No problem, Holly.
Any other questions?
I've got one question that I see here that that I think is important for everyone. The response to is important to hear. So there's the question on the table is, how aligned do I have to be with my advisor's research? You know, maybe I have some interest that is not directly aligned with my advisor's interest, and that's what I want to pursue. It is important to remember that a doctoral degree is really about you. This is not like getting a master's degree. This is really about, I want to be this person when I grow up, and here are the things I think I need to do to be this person when I grow up. Your advisors are there to help guide you along that path because you don't know what you don't know, right? So it's our job to keep the guardrails up, to make sure that we help you as you continue to grow and develop towards the thing that you want to be. That said, if you choose skill areas of interest that are too far left field from your advisor can't keep the guardrails up for you anymore, because they don't know not only what you don't know, but they don't know what this other thing is that you don't know about either. And they really won't have time to help guide you in that thing because they're over here doing their thing, right? And trying to provide opportunities for you to grow and develop skills and competencies and knowledge and expertise in this field, while in doing that by apprenticing through the opportunities we can give you, okay? So I in my opinion, you are absolutely looking at a doctoral program and looking at doctoral study as an opportunity to launch your careers towards the things that you want to do. And we're gonna help guide you towards those things that you want to do. But it is not the place to start your own small business and your own research agenda and your own research trajectory without guidance. It's the place to start to grow what that is, right? It's the place where you start to understand what's your elevator speech. When somebody asks you, what do you study? You're able to say it in 12 seconds, right? And you get to do that in apprenticeship with your advisor, working with your advisor, allowing yourself to learn from your advisor, allowing yourself to have a little trust in the process and trust the process and what it is we're putting in front of you so they can help you grow the things that you want to grow. That's why the match part of this is so very important. It is important that you look to study with individuals who study the thing you want to study. There are lots of people out there. There are lots of doctoral programs out there. Many doctoral programs have funding associated with them. If this is not the one that is a good match for you, you should be searching for the one that is, right? Because doctoral study is hard. It's not the time to play around with it. It's not, there are many days that are not fun. So the last thing you want to do is make it even less fun by studying with someone who does not share your interest and doesn't share what it is that you want to do. It'll make it much more difficult for you to enjoy this experience and learn from it. So make sure you're looking for that match. Make sure you're checking out those folks you want to work with, asking hard questions, making sure that it will be a good fit for you so that they can help you. Dr. Hart, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
you busted me trying to look up. I was going to put a link. There are, like Dr. Patton-Terry said, there are other IES funded pre-doctoral programs that exist in the country. They're all different than ours, but all similar funding levels, similar approaches. So I was going to put a link in the chat to give you an idea of what other ones, if you're like, you know, the right fit isn't here, but you're interested in general in this principle and understanding education from a, you know, a rigorous way, I'll put those links up. But I agree, you want to match with the research area, and you want to match with the advisor. Personally, I would say as well that it's that they provide the mentorship that you are looking for.
And yes, we can share the PowerPoint.
We'll actually be able to share this video. It'll be available on the website for the training program, so you'll be able to come back to it. Are there any other questions? Please don't be shy. If there's anything else we can answer for you, this is a good opportunity to do that. So let us know.
I just want to say that more than questions is that, yeah, this is like a good beginning, something, a new page to write on. And as a teacher, I think that it is important to see reading. I'm taking the reading credential specialty, that reading, it is a science. Reading is something that we must have a training, deep training on how to help our students, rather than just to get a degree and just throw ourselves in the classrooms trying to do our best instead of having scientific basis how to do what we need to do. So it is a challenge. I know PhDs are a challenge, but I think that I'm talking about me, but I guess all of us that are here, we're up to the challenge. That's why we are here today.
Thank you for that comment, and we totally agree. That's why we wrote this training grant. We really do think, we really do believe that the field of reading research is due for some breakthroughs, and there's due for some folks moving us to the next frontier. And we also really believe that it isn't necessarily just us. We've been doing this for a long time. It's good to have new, fresh ideas, right? It's good to have new voices in the room. And so we are very excited about the opportunity to train a very diverse group of folks who are gonna do that. You guys are going to be the ones that go out there and make sure these breakthroughs happen. And we're excited to get you started on those journeys.
Dr. Patton-Terry, will you still be advising doctoral students because you have a new position as director of FCRR?
It depends on the match. I will be honest and say that I currently am advising 4 students as their primary advisor, and that is a heavy load. I don't know what's typical for you guys over there in psych, but in most doctoral programs, that's a heavy load already. So the answer isn't no, but the match will definitely matter, because I will not be able to spend equal amounts of time with all of my children. So I gotta make sure, but I will say that if I take you on, I take you on. So it is a very serious commitment for me. So I do take it that time and prioritize the time that I will give you as a student. So the match really matters.
Another good question, do you consider any deferred enrollment after application or acceptance? For example, if she applied this year but would like to begin studying in fall 2020, is that possible?
In fall 2022?
Yeah, 2022.
Okay, so no, that wouldn't be possible because of Florida. That's a Florida state policy. So you have to, when you become accepted, there's a certain window of time in which you have to enroll. And I forget if it's 1 or 2 semesters, but if you were admitted to enroll in fall 2021, it will be a full year before you enroll in fall 2022, and that's too long for the university. So if you are interested in starting this fall, you should apply now. If you're interested in maybe waiting a year to apply in the next cycle. Well, we will offer 1 more cycle. of these opportunities, and you could certainly apply then to be admitted in fall 2022. Okay.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Hart and Dr. Patton Terry. Again, this recording and the PowerPoint will be available online within the next few days. And if you have any questions that pop up, please feel free to just shoot me an email.
Thank you all so much for doing this. This has been so helpful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'll have a great day.